Alright, so I'm going to be basically doing a complete disassembly of this late 2013 13-inch MacBook Pro model A1502. The customer wants to have a complete sterilization of the computer because their house was contaminated with mold. So let's go ahead and clean this. We're going to use some 91% isopropyl rubbing alcohol. So I basically just sprayed it on the paper towel, and then we're going to wipe this thing down. Okay. Alright, I'm going to go on the other side now. We're going to clean that as well. Alright. Okay. Okay, that's all good. Let's open it up. Same thing, spray it on the paper towel. We're going to wipe this down. Oops, they left it on, so I need to make sure to shut this down. Okay, shut it down. Is it shutting down? Okay, hopefully it's shutting down. These keys will be a little bit trickier because I have to get in between, and I don't want too much liquid, because if you have too much liquid on the paper and then you press on the keys to wipe it, then you can actually end up with the liquid getting in between the keys, which can actually damage the components. So you want to be careful with that. Okay, and also the screen on this is a bit sensitive, so you don't want to get too much chemical on it. Okay, again, we're just getting it. Oops, turn back off, please. Actually, I'll hold the option key in. It's already starting up, so I guess it is what it is. Oh, this key looks like it's okay. They typed on it so much that it got a layer removed, so it doesn't actually clean. It's not a dirty spot. Right here you can see how much dirt's coming off. The paper towel is actually changing color, so we're gonna flip it over. I need to shut this down again. Stop turning yourself on, please. Okay, make sure to clean the back screen hinge area as well. Shut down, please. Okay. Alright, we gotta make sure it completely shuts down again, and then have to be careful not to turn it back on. Okay, that's like a scratch, so we're going to be careful now with the power button, and we're just going to clean out these keys. Oh, not again. Okay, well, it's on, it's on. You can see how much dirt's coming out. I'm going to fold that over again. Alright, I'm going to use this toothbrush and kind of clean up between the keys. Okay, it's going to be annoying. It keeps turning itself on. I should probably actually make this easier by disconnecting the battery first. So let's go ahead and do that actually. And then we're going to actually blow out all the dust from inside. Alright, let me shut this down and then pull the battery out real quick so that it's easier to do this. Alright, to open it up, we are going to be using a Pentalobe 1.2 or P5 screwdriver. We're also going to be using a Torx 5 or T5 screwdriver. I don't think we need to take out the screen, but if we do, we're going to use a T8 or Torx 8 screwdriver. Alright, let's remove the bottom cover first by removing the pentalobe 1.2 screws. You want to keep all the screws in order because they can be different size, shape, and lengths. The way I do that, I remove the screw, put the flat side down like that. In the pattern, I remove it, and keep all these screws in order. So I'm going to put them in this rectangular pattern. Alright, if this video helps you, make sure to like, subscribe, and share my channel with others so that they can also learn how to upgrade and repair their devices. Right? If it helps you save a bunch of money, please consider contributing a little to the channel so that I can continue making these videos for a living. But other than that, let's go ahead and continue with the disassembly and the sanitization of this laptop. Alright. Okay, let's get all these screws out. Screw. Most likely gonna have to take this outside and clean it up. So now that we got all the screws, we're gonna pop this cover off. Just get back here and then pull this cover up. Might have to kind of wiggle it a little bit. There we go. Alright, so here you go. Wow, that's very dusty inside. So yeah, I'm gonna take this outside. I'm gonna brush it off and use an air blower to kind of get all that dust out. So let me do that real quick and I'll be back and I'll see you guys soon. Alright, so I'm back. So I cleaned this off with some warm water. Alright, so it was pretty dusty and gross. And there we go. Okay, so this stuff is kind of stuck on here. Alright, can kind of get a little bit of this crumb stuff out. But anyways, let's go ahead and disconnect the battery. So the battery connector is right here. If you're wondering how I cleaned this out, I used a toothbrush, kind of loosened up the dust, and then I used an electric air blower to blow away the loose dust. Alright, anyways, let's go ahead and disconnect the battery. So the battery connector is right here. I just used my fingernails here underneath this part of the connector. Okay, sorry. Just like that, and then I just pull that connector away from the motherboard. Alright, it's easier when you have it laying down like this, but I kind of wanted to show you what I'm actually pulling up. So there we go. Pull that connector up like that. And now the battery's disconnected. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open the computer and then press and hold the power button to drain the power. You want to do this for 15 seconds. This will drain any residual power and make it a lot safer to work on the computer. Okay, so we're going to hold it for a few more seconds. And then we're going to go ahead and clean this screen off here. Okay, so the screen, to clean it, you want to do 2 steps. You want to use some water and then also rubbing alcohol. But as you can see, the anti-glare coating here kind of comes out, so you want to be careful. Alright, so let's go ahead and use some water. So I get a piece of paper towel like this. We're just going to get some water on it. You don't want too much water, okay? So what you want to do is you want to get water in the paper towel. I don't know if you can see that. And then you want to kind of squeeze it and make sure it's not like dripping out, alright? And then that's how you know you have a good amount of water. And we're just going to use that to wipe the screen here. So we're going to use the water to remove any residue that's water-based or water-soluble, alright? And then to remove the grease stuff, we're going to use a paper towel with the rubbing alcohol. Alright, so we're just going to clean this off best we can with water. And then the rubbing alcohol, again, you want to be careful because it can eat through the anti-glare coating. If you have your screen that's all splotchy like this, you actually can use the rubbing alcohol to clean off the anti-glare coating completely, and then it will just be equally or evenly shiny. So that's how you can actually clean off the anti-glare coating, and then it will make it all even, but it takes a lot of elbow grease to clean that off. So right now we're not cleaning off the anti-glare coating, we're just cleaning off the grease and making sure that the screen is clean. Okay, so here you can see it's a lot cleaner now. Okay, we're going to get a little bit more rubbing alcohol here. We're going to clean it some more. Again, you don't want to rub this too hard because you don't want it to eat through the anti-glare coating. So if you rub this really hard with the rubbing alcohol, you can clean off the anti-glare coating. but again, that's not what we're going for right now. We're just sanitizing the computer. Cleaning off the anti-glare coating takes a lot more time and work to clean that off, and that's a somewhat expensive process if I had to do that. So we're just making sure that it's clean. Okay, so there we go. So here you can see the anti-glare coating. That's basically just going to be permanently stuck there. All right, I'm going to put the bottom cover on temporarily right now so that we can continue cleaning the keyboard. All right, so we'll pop that back on, flip this over. All right, let's go ahead and clean this stuff off again. Let me actually clean my desk as well. Okay. Right, I'm knocking all my stuff over. Oops. Let me make sure to put them back. Sorry about that. Okay. Alright, so now let's go ahead and open this thing back up and finish cleaning the keyboard. Okay. Alright. Now that we have the battery disconnected, you can actually go ahead and go over the power button, no worries. Again, you don't want too much rubbing alcohol on here because you don't want it to actually squeeze out and drip in between the keys. Okay, there we go. So you can see how much dirtier the paper towel got. I'm going to use this hand-powered air blower just to get the residue, the paper towel junk that came out. And I'm actually going to use the electric air blower outside just to blow out all the keys, just to get out any dust particles and things like that. Alright, I'll be back. Alright, so we're back. Let's go ahead and clean off the keyboard a little bit more. We're going to get one more clean paper towel again. Alright, we're just going to fold it up. Get some rubbing alcohol in there, make sure it's not dripping. And then again, we're going to go over the keys. I'm going actually between the keys right now. Okay, make sure it's all clean. Okay, went over the keys several times, so you should be good to go there. Alright, so let's go ahead and close this up. Okay, flip this back over. Pop the bottom cover back off. Okay. That side. Alright, so next thing we're going to do, we're going to clean the inside here. Okay, so you want to be careful with cleaning the battery as well, because this coat will actually come off, so it's actually going to turn more glossy, which is okay. It doesn't affect the battery, but in order to clean it, that's what we're going to have to do. So we're just going to wipe it down. Okay, just to try and get it as clean as possible. We don't want to overly get the battery coating off or anything, but we're just cleaning it, just getting the rubbing alcohol on it. Okay, same thing with the speakers here. We're actually going to take out the speakers to clean the bottom as well. Alright, there we go. Okay, so let's go ahead now and start removing some components from here. Okay, we're going to switch over to the T5 or Torx 5 screwdriver. Okay, let's go ahead and start removing components. So let's see, should I remove that first? Okay, let's go ahead and remove this little connector here first. All right, so there's 4 screws, 2 on each of these metal tabs here, holding that in place. So let's remove those. Let's actually wipe the metal tabs here a little bit. Okay, there we go. Make sure the battery's still disconnected. All right, now that we got those two screws out, we're going to take this metal plate off, set that aside. We're going to do the same thing with this side. Move those two screws. Okay, take that metal plate off as well, just like that. Pop this connector off, just get underneath the corners like this, and then kind of just wiggle and pull it. There we go. Same thing with the other side. Opposite corners, wiggle and pull it, and there we go. So we got this out. Can go ahead and clean underneath here as well. Okay. All right, so we'll set that aside. All right, then we're going to remove the wireless card here. So the wireless card, it has 3 antennas. Let's go ahead and disconnect those antennas. I just get underneath as close as I can to the tail, sorry. And then I just pull it up just like this. All right, we're gonna do that for all 3. There we go, and we can move this out of the way. Same thing, we're gonna remove the iSight camera or webcam cable. If you have a plastic tool, you'll want to use that. All right, so I'm going to use this, and we're going to walk the connector out. So I'm going to go from this side, push it a little, other side, push it a little, and then just keep going back and forth, just like that, slowly walking the connector out, and there we go. All right, then you want to keep this cable as flat as possible. I pull this way as I kind of lift it up to peel that back. All right, just like this. Okay, then get over here and same thing, peel that connector up, and there we go. All right, so here there's an adhesive, there's an adhesive under here that goes across the 2 screws this way. So we're gonna get under there in between, and then we're gonna pull that up. I just use the T5 or Torx 5 screwdriver to do that, just like this, and then peel that up. All right, so here we go, we got this piece out. We're gonna set that aside. We're going to do the same thing on this side. All right, so same thing, the rubber piece is here. We're going to get underneath, all right, in between the 2 screws, and lift that up to peel that out. So there we go. Here you can see the adhesive stays inside. All right, there we go. So let's go ahead now and disconnect the screen. Make sure again that you disconnected the battery and press and held the power button for 15 seconds before removing this. So I'm going to get underneath this metal clip or latch, flip that back, and then grab the 2 ends and pull the connector back just like that. Right, so we got the screen connector out. Yeah, we don't need to take the whole screen out, but we are gonna clean this a little bit. Okay, same thing over here. We are gonna take out these 2 T8 screws just so they're not in the way, so that we can remove the motherboard. Okay, getting all bits of paper towel in there. All right, so let's go ahead and remove these 2 T8 or Torx 8 screws, just so we can lift the wireless antenna cables out of the way. Okay, so we got those 2 screws out. All right, now we're gonna move this cable out of the way, as you can see. Okay, so now let's go ahead and start removing all the other screws for the computer. We're gonna have to be a little bit careful cleaning this. All right, so that's the wireless card. So I'm gonna fold this paper towel over, get some rubbing alcohol on it again, and we're just gonna clean that. Okay, and take out the T5 or Torx 5 screw here, and we're gonna remove this. All right, once you remove the screw, you can get underneath, pull it up slightly. You want to go very slowly because there is a thermal pad that holds it down to the motherboard. Once you get it popped up, you can go ahead and grab it and you can wiggle and pull it back just like that. All right, so we're going to clean under here as well. I'm just going to use a toothbrush and brush it off into the trash can next to me. Okay. Okay, so just cleaning that up a bit. All right, so you can see a lot less dust on it. There we go. Clean up the sides of that board. Okay, so we're gonna set this aside now. Okay. All right. If you want, you can go ahead and clean under here too. Usually it's not going to have too much problem with mold or anything in all these components, because the main thing is the air is getting sucked through here and blown out there. So usually you mainly have to just worry about the fan and stuff. But if you want to be extra thorough, the customer wanted me to be thorough with it. So we're taking the whole motherboard out and cleaning that up. All right, so let's zoom out again. Okay, we're still using the T5 or Torx 5. We will have to use a PH0 or JAS0 screwdriver to remove that. So let's go ahead and switch over to that. Okay, we're going to remove this one screw here, up in this corner. I believe that's the only PH0 or JAS0 screw that we'll have to remove from the whole computer. Okay, so we'll get that one screw out. All right, we're going to switch back to the T5 or Torx 5 screwdriver. Let's go ahead now and remove the fan here, or at least the screws. We're going to remove just the 2 screws here. Okay, so there's the screw here. Again, you want to keep all these screws in order because they are different size, shape, and lengths. Very important. Let's go ahead and actually remove this screw as well. I'm going to actually go down in rows like this so it's easier for me to remember where I got the screws from. Right, so we got the 3 screws out here. I'm not counting the wireless card. We got the 1 screw down here. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and remove the screws over here. We're going to leave this 1 screw here so the fan stays attached to the motherboard. Let's go ahead and remove the screw up here holding the motherboard or logic board down. Okay, 1 screw down here. Okay, so now let's go ahead and disconnect these. We're going to disconnect the speaker connector here. So let's actually go ahead and disconnect the speaker completely. All right, so let me show you how you do this. So what you do to disconnect the speaker, you want to get underneath this cable here. If you have a thin plastic pry tool, you can use that. Basically, you get under here. There is some adhesive holding this down, so you want to be careful. So we're slowly going to get underneath this adhesive, okay? Once you get underneath that adhesive, get your fingernail or pry tool as close underneath the bottom of this plastic connector as possible, and then you can pop this up just like that. And you want to make sure, as you can see, there's a little groove under here, and that's where we're basically getting under there and then popping it up. You want to make sure you're not actually popping up this board connector itself. All right, so there was some junk in there, so let's clean that out. All right, so the speaker connector comes out this way. We're going to peel this out, okay, just like that. Let's zoom out a bit and let's go ahead and remove the 3 screws holding this speaker in place. There are a lot of screws to remember, so hopefully you guys will be able to keep track of all your screws. Okay, the air for the laptop usually gets brought in through these little slits here, and then it comes up through the fan. So we're going to want to try and clean that a bit. You can see there's a lot of dust. All right, I'm just going to brush this off in my trash can next to me. So let me do that and I'll be back. All right, so I brushed off all the dust that was all around there, and then we're just going to wipe it down with a little rubbing alcohol. All right, get some there, and we're just going to clean that. Okay. All right, clean that up. There we go. We'll set that aside. All right, we're going to remove the speaker from the other side as well. So over here, okay, got 3 more screws. Same idea, we're going to get underneath this connector as well and then pop that up. So let's go ahead and get these screws out. All right, we're going to pull this up slightly, and then we're going to swing it over to get the cable out from underneath that. All right, now that we've got that out, we're going to get our fingernail underneath again. Again, you can use a plastic pry tool. Get as close underneath that connector as you can, and then pop that up just like this. All right, come on. It's getting stuck a little bit. There we go. All right, now we're gonna clean this out as well. You can see how dusty it is. All right, I'm gonna also clean out the little gap area here on both sides. All right, so I'm gonna do that and I'll be back. All right, so I cleaned that out, cleaned out the other fan. All right, so that stuff won't come out, but there we go. All right, we're gonna set that fan, or sorry, not the fan, speaker aside. All right, I kind of wonder if these little specks will come off. Oh, there we go. I'm gonna try and scrape them out with this. Okay, so there we go. I got most of that stuff out. Let's go ahead now and continue getting the motherboard out. All right, again, using the T5 or Torx 5 screwdriver. Let's get this screw out. Oops, sorry, we're going out of view. Let's zoom out a bit more. Okay, and we're gonna get this screw down here. Okay, then we're gonna get this screw up here. You want to follow along completely because there are going to be a lot of small connectors that are hard to see. If you don't follow along, you might end up damaging things, so just be very careful and follow along carefully. There's 2 more screws up here holding the charge port in place, so let's go ahead and remove those 2 screws. Okay, let's go ahead and remove this screw. All right, and the last screw we're going to remove is down here holding the battery connector in place. This will just make it so it's a little bit easier to get the motherboard out. Okay, again, hopefully you're keeping all the screws in order. So here you can see we can lift this piece up now. All right, so we're going to first remove the microphone connector here. So let's actually zoom in. I'm going to have a tough time showing this, but let's see, because there's so much stuff in the way. All right, so let's get the microphone connector out. So the microphone connector is right here. We're gonna peel this plastic back. All right, once you peel that back, we're gonna flip this latch up here. I just used my fingernail. You can use whatever plastic pry tool. Okay, so there you go. Once you get that latch back, you can go ahead and slide this cable out. I used that plastic tab that we peeled back to do that. You just kind of wiggle it around as you kind of pull it. Okay, and there we go. That's the microphone connector. All right, we're gonna leave the charge port connected there. Let's actually take out the SSD. So there's 1 screw, T5 Torx 5 screw, and we're just gonna clean this up. So let's go ahead and now pop this up, kind of wiggle and pull this back. Again, I'm gonna use a toothbrush and just clean off all this dirt and dust here. So let me do that real quick. All right. And you want to be careful with these because all these little labels, I believe rubbing alcohol will wipe all this ink off, so you won't have the serial numbers and things if you were to clean that. So we're just brushing it off for now. All right, so here we go. Now let's see what else we got. Don't forget the connector here. This is the keyboard backlight connector. So if you damage this, you're not going to have the keyboard backlight anymore. So we just pop it up like that and then push that aside. I just went with my fingernails and popped it up. You can use plastic pry tools again. All right. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to disconnect the keyboard connector. So we're going to peel back this adhesive here. All right, peel it back just like that. Once you do that, flip that latch up, and then you can go ahead and kind of wiggle and pull this back. You kind of want to pull it straight back if you can using that adhesive strip here. So there we go. Now we're going to pull back the trackpad connector as well. So same thing, flip the latch and then use this adhesive strip to pull that back just like that. All right. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to disconnect this I/O board, which is for the USB, HDMI, SD card slot, and the wireless card over all on this side over here. Right, so pinch these 2 things together, and then you can go ahead and wiggle and pull this connector out just like that. All right, so we don't need to, or we have to take this stuff out first. So let's go ahead and zoom out so you can see the entire motherboard. Okay, now that we got everything disconnected, we're going to lift the motherboard out. So as you can see, this part lifts up, but you don't want to lift from here because you can actually end up bending that pipe. So what we do is I get under here to the motherboard and I lift up from this side. right? And then you kind of want to help it with the fan. Okay, the fan is kind of stuck for some reason. So let's go ahead and lift that. There we go. Right, and then you got to get all these connectors out of the way as you lift it up. The main one is this battery connector that's going to be kind of in the way. Make sure this eyesight camera board and everything's out of the way. Again, we're going to slowly lift it. Now we can just grab the board like this, slowly wiggling it. All right, and then we're going to slowly work our way to get this out. So here you go. Now you can see a bunch more dust here. I'm going to take this out and clean this up outside, all right? Because I don't want all this dust and stuff inside. All right, so I'll do that and I'll be back. All right, so we cleaned out the dust all from under here. All right. Oh, there's still some stuff getting... Okay, so we cleaned out all the dust from here. Okay, we're going to actually disconnect this cable as well. So there's an adhesive here. Just like before, you don't want to roll the connectors back. You want to try and keep it flat if you can, and then peel it back. All right, so once you peel that up, oh, the double stick adhesive's coming off from the connector. All right, once you do that, grab this as close as you can, and you kind of just wiggle it as you pull it to disconnect it. Okay, just like that. So there we go. We got the charge board removed. Okay. So the fan, if you wanted to remove it, it has a little latch, and you remove it like the microphone or the keyboard trackpad connectors here. I'm going to leave that attached. If you want, you can also take this rubber piece off, all right, just like this. We're just going to flip that up and move it out of the way. All right, so we don't want to get liquid all into here. So what we're going to do, I'm going to spray some rubbing alcohol onto a toothbrush, and then we're going to clean that because I don't want it to get into the motor. Most of the other components, it's okay. So we're going to actually end up spraying rubbing alcohol all over the board just to sanitize it. All right, but let's go ahead first and clean up under here. All right, so I'm going to set this aside on one of these anti-static bag kind of things. Okay, so set that aside for now. All right, we're going to remove this board. So this small board, we have one more T8 or Torx 8 screw to remove. Okay, so let's go ahead and remove that screw. Okay, just right there. This was underneath the small PH0 screw. All right, so now that we've removed that, we're going to lift this up slightly at an angle, and then we're going to wiggle and pull that out. All right, so here we go. We're going to clean this out. You can see it's pretty dusty, so I'm going to clean that outside as well, and then I'll be back. All right, see you guys in a bit. All right, so we cleaned all of that up. Now we're going to be cleaning this off with some rubbing alcohol. All right, so I'm going to get the paper again, just get some rubbing alcohol in there, and we're going to be cleaning this underneath the keyboard area just to decontaminate it. Okay, we're not going to take the battery out because there's adhesive holding it down, and it is a lot of work to remove that, and then you can't put it back right unless you get a replacement battery. So we're going to leave that as is. And hopefully it should be clean enough that it shouldn't be an issue. All right, I mean, it's impossible to get rid of 100% of mold because you're gonna get mold again anywhere. Like if you have food, your food will get moldy no matter how clean. There's always gonna be some mold spores that get in. So we're just cleaning it the best we can so that there's nothing crazy remaining. All right, so there we go. Clean all of that. All right, so the board and stuff, this, if you're using 91% isopropyl alcohol, you can actually spray it down, and as long as you make sure it's dry before turning the computer back on, you should be okay. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna get the isopropyl alcohol, and we're gonna just spray this on here. Here you go, so it's all coated, and then we can actually use the toothbrush if we want to kind of scrub it a little, just to make sure it gets into all the little nooks and crannies. Okay, and this will basically kill the bacteria there and the mold. All right, so we're gonna spray it on here too. Okay, same thing. All right, we're just gonna brush it in to get it into all the little nooks and crannies. And then we're just gonna let this dry. Okay, it dries pretty quick. If you want, I have this air blower, so I can use that and actually dry it up a lot quicker. You can see. All right, So basically what this stuff does is, because isopropyl alcohol is has water base, and it's also kind of, I don't know what you call it, polar and non-polar, that's what it is. So it's basically like how soap works. Alright, it can help pull the stuff away, but because of that, it kind of dissolves the outer coating of the mold and things like that, and causes them to die. So alright, so we're just going to clean that up. Alright, now we're going to just make sure to dry it up a bit. Okay, and then I like to kind of just use the toothbrush to kind of make sure that if there are any dissolved stuff that's floating around, you don't want to leave it shorted, so, or connecting any pins, so I use the toothbrush to kind of just clean it up. Alright, so there we go. That up. Okay, so this should be good. We're going to set that aside. Now we're going to do the same thing with the motherboard. Okay, the fan here, again, you don't want to just spray a bunch of liquid in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the toothbrush here. Let me actually zoom in a bit. I'm going to spray some on there, and then we're going to use that to kind of just brush it a little. Okay. Alright, got a little bit in the fan, so it should be good. Again, you don't need a crazy amount. This kind of material, it doesn't really allow mold to grow on it, so the only thing you would have is like some slight mold spores that are left. It's impossible to kind of kill everything. Alright, so we're just going to do the best we can. Clean that up. Alright, and then we're going to do the same thing with the rest of the motherboard. We're going to spray it, and then we're going to let it dry it out. Okay, same thing, get the board. Okay, we're just going to spray it. It's nice because it turns dark when you have the rubbing alcohol on it, so you know that it's actually got the rubbing alcohol on it. Alright, so just brush this up. Alright, and get all the connectors as well. Okay, let's go ahead and dry it off. If you can, you want to do this in a well-ventilated area. You don't want to breathe in all the fumes. Okay. You can see how the rubbing alcohol kind of just gathers and pulls, so I use the toothbrush to kind of spread it back out some more so it can evaporate better. Alright. And then we just use this to dry it out. I could also use the electric air blower, but just so you guys can see what's going on, I'm doing it with this. So here you can see the rubbing alcohol can get caught under there. So again, you're going to want to wait to turn on the computer unless you have a way to completely dry it out really easily. So the electric air blower will work a lot better to make sure it's completely dry. Otherwise, you want to give it a day or so to turn it on. So I'm going to leave this overnight before I turn it back on. But just make sure, here you can see there's still liquid in there. I'm going to actually use my electric air blower to make sure it's dry, but for now I'm just going to do it this way. Okay, because with the electric air blower, then I can show you guys right away once it's done. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing, clean this. This part, if you get the rubbing alcohol on it, it's going to peel off, so you want to be careful with that. Okay. Alright, there we go. And I'm going to avoid the, what do you call, the adhesive stuff, because that dissolves the adhesives as well, and then it will leave the residue all over there. Okay, so I'm gonna try this out. Okay, hopefully those liquid detection stickers don't turn pink. Try it out. Okay, they stayed white, good. All right, let's try out the rest. Okay, and again, I am going to use the electric air blower just to make sure everything is completely dried, and that should be it. All right, so let's clean off this. Oh. They put a sticky residue on top of there. That's weird. All right, let me see if I can clean that off. Takes a little more rubbing alcohol. I don't know why the top of this is all sticky. That's weird. Okay. All right, so I'm going to clean this off with the air blower, and then we're going to reassemble the computer. All right, so I'll see you guys in a bit. All right, so we're done cleaning and drying both of these. All right, so let's go ahead now and put this board back in. If you want to be extra safe, you can actually leave it overnight just to make sure that there is no liquid residue remaining. Okay, we're going to put this board in first. We have to put it slightly at an angle, basically how we removed it. Okay, so this goes in at an angle. We want to make sure these little spring metal pieces go underneath this extended metal part of the case. All right, so get that underneath there, just like that. Make sure these screw mounts line up, and then we're going to put in the T8 or Torx 8 screw up here. Okay. And again, you want to make sure that this stuff stays lined up properly. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and tighten that down. All right, next thing, we're going to go ahead and put the motherboard back in. This part is pretty tricky just because all the connectors and stuff here. Okay, so when you go to put this, you have to make sure all these connectors end up back on top. We're going to go ahead and put the charge port board back in. Okay, click that back in. Stick this down. All right, so we're going to put it at an angle like this. And you want to make sure all these cables are out. So you got the keyboard backlight, the LCD, LVDS connector, the microphone connector here. Okay, let's go ahead and push this in first. There we go. Okay, so you want to slide that underneath. Get the microphone connector, make sure that's out of the way. Okay, battery connector, of course, make sure that's up and out of the way. Okay, make sure the keyboard backlight connector is up and out of the way. Then you want to get all these metal tabs again underneath. You don't want to let the metal tabs go on top of this part here. Okay, and then make sure the headphone jack is flush here. Okay, and that's how you know that you have it going in right. We're going to make sure all these cables end up back on top as well. All right, and then we're going to slowly lower this down. These cables are the hardest ones to make sure they're back on top. You're going to want to use a small thin tool to make sure to get them out. Okay, as you slowly lower the thing down, I'm going to use this thin tool. Pull the keyboard connector up and out. Right, and then the keyboard or the trackpad connector as well. I'm going to slowly lower this down. Okay. Where's this attached to? Okay. There we go. There's a cat hair there stuck. All right. So now we got all the stuff back on top. Done with the rubbing alcohol. We cleaned it all up. All right, so next thing we're going to do, we're going to make sure to get all the screws back in. You want to get the charge port first. So the best way to do this is you get the charge port. I use this adapter, but you can just use your charger. Make sure it's unplugged. And then we're going to attach that there, and that will pull the charge port all the way up against the wall. All right. I'm going to switch back over to the T5 or Torx 5 screwdriver. Let's zoom in a bit here. Let's see if I can show this better. All right, so we're gonna get this screw in here. All right, I'm just loosely fitting it first. I didn't tighten it all the way down yet. I'm gonna do the same second one, and then now we're gonna hold the connector. We're pulling it back slightly to make sure the charge port is completely pulled against the inside of this part here. All right, then you can go ahead and tighten down both those screws. All right, there we go. Now we can take this out. All right, next thing we're gonna do, we're going to reconnect the microphone cable here. All right, let's see if I can show this. It's kind of small, so let's see. Here we go. All right, so you want to make sure this plastic tab is separated from the connector itself. Right now it's stuck to it, so I'm gonna pull that, and then actually the microphone got pulled underneath. Oh no. Okay, make sure to get the microphone up. There we go. All right, and then we're gonna go ahead and push the microphone into there. Okay, you can use the little pull tab to help guide it. All right, so get that in. You'll see the white line gets hidden underneath there, and then you can slide your finger over the latch to lock it down. Then we can put this tape back down. All right, let's go ahead and actually put in the speaker down here. Let's zoom out a bit. Okay, let's put the one screw for the battery here. Okay. All right, now let's go ahead and get the speaker. We're gonna slide this underneath. All right, and then we're gonna let this go down. Just line up the connector and then push it down into place. There we go. You can push down the adhesive again as well. And then let's go ahead and put back the 3 screws. I'm gonna loosely fit the screws first just to make sure everything is lined. Alright, once we got all 3 screws in, we can go ahead and screw it down. Okay, just like that. And last one. There we go. We're going to go over to this side. Alright, hopefully you remember to put the T8 screw for this board, for this board first, because otherwise the heatsink is on top, and then you're either going to have to take the heatsink out and redo the thermal paste, or take the whole motherboard back out to get that screw in. All right, so we're gonna put the other the other speaker in. Okay, so same thing, just get that in, line this up, get the connector lined up, and then just go ahead and push that down. Stick the adhesive back along the wall like it used to be, and then we'll get those 3 screws in. Okay, loosely fit it first. Okay, last one, and then we'll just tighten this all the way down. All right, so we got that in. We're going to reconnect this connector here. Just get it lined up, and then pinch the 2 pieces together, just like this. All right, there we go. Let's go ahead now and start getting the other screws in. Okay, I'm gonna get the screws up here. Again, hopefully you guys were able to get all the connectors back on top. All right, let's go ahead now and stick down this keyboard backlight connector here. Make sure it's lined up, and then just push it in. Okay, there we go. We're gonna put back the rubber piece for this fan. Alright, so the rubber piece, you want to get the back parts in first. It's hard to show this on camera, but basically I'm going to grab that, get that in, slide it under. Same thing with the other side, slide that under. And then these ones, we're going to just slide them over like that. There we go. Just like that. Okay, let's go ahead and continue putting back the motherboard screws. So we got another screw here. Okay, another motherboard screw here. If you want to make sure that the motherboard is slid over all the way, you can actually loosen all these motherboard screws. Should be good, but I'm going to double check, and then I'm going to push on the motherboard here just to make sure the headphone jack is all the way flush with that. All right, looks good. Let's go ahead and tighten them all back down. Oops, sorry, I'm off camera again. But you get the idea. Tighten all these screws in. All right, let's continue getting the rest of these screws. One up here. It might not be lined up right, so I'm going to undo the screws slightly. So I can make sure everything is aligned properly. There we go. Alright, get this screw. Alright, now let's go ahead and push it over again, make sure, and then tighten everything in. Alright, we're going to get the fan screw down here. Why is it being all weird and crooked again? Okay, so that's fine, but for some reason the fan... Oh. There we go. Okay. Let's go ahead and get the PH0 or JAS0 screw in, so that way we can make sure that it's not going to move around. Okay, tighten that one down. There we go, perfect. Switch back to the T5. Hold the fan in place, tighten it in. Right, now I need to retighten all these screws again. I keep having to loosen them to make sure everything is aligned properly. Okay, let's go ahead and get the last few screws in. Got the one screw down here. Alright, and the last screw for the fan up here. Alright, let's go ahead and get the SSD in. Goes in slightly at an angle like this. Then we're going to go ahead and push both sides like that. Alright, drop that into place. Put that T5 Torx 5 screw in. Alright, let's get the LCD LVDS connector in. Zoom in here. Okay. Line that up. Alright, and then we're going to pull the latch forward to lock it in place. That, and then latch that down. Alright, keyboard and trackpad connectors down here. I use my fingernail to kind of pull the connector back to get it to go into place, just like that. Alright, and then we just get all of these to go in. Want to make sure it goes in straight. Right now it's going kind of crooked. We don't want that. Okay. Here we go. Pull that up. There we go. Once you get that all lined up, then you want to slide your finger over the latch to lock it down, and then put that adhesive down. All right, trackpad connector, same deal. Pull the connector back, get it in place. All right. Use the tab to pull it, and then slide your finger over the latch to lock it down. And there we go. All right. Okay, now let's go ahead and get the iSight webcam cable over here in. There we go. All right, so we're gonna get this cable in over here. Line it up. All right, I'm going to use my fingernails, but again, you can do the same thing, kind of walking the connector left, right. I just wiggle my finger like that to kind of do it. There we go. Make sure it's all latched, all right, and that the silver parts are flush together. Then you can go ahead and stick down the adhesive. All right, we're going to put back these T8 or Torx 8 screws there. Okay, I'm going to put one screw first loosely, then we're going to get the second screw just to make sure everything is lined up, and then we'll tighten it down. I'm holding the iSight camera tucked underneath there. Okay. Make sure these screws are nice and tight. If you want, you can add some thread locker to make it hold better. Okay, we're done with the T8 or Torx 8 screwdriver for now. Let's go ahead and get the wireless card back in. Same thing, it goes in at an angle. Squeeze both, it goes in at an angle like this. Squeeze both to pop it in, and then let it down. Make sure you get the antennas out on top, of course. Switch back to the T5. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and put back the T5, our Torx 5 screw. Go. All right, so for the wireless antennas, you want to make sure to be very careful with these because they are fragile connectors. You want to get them lined up. The way you know it's lined up is once it's on top, if you try and move it around, you can see it staying in place. Then you can go ahead and push it down. We're going to do this with all three. Okay. All right, and the last one. You can use little tweezers to help you with this. But I just find using my fingernails works well. All right, there we go. So clicked in all three. Again, make sure they're in. Okay, let's zoom back out. I'm gonna put the little rubber hinge screw covers back in place. All right, the little extended rubber parts goes in closer towards the center. We're gonna do this on both sides, so we're gonna put this one as well. All right, now we're gonna put back the cable down here. All right, you wanna make sure that the connectors are the mismatching. So this one has the tall gold walls, this one doesn't. This one has the tall gold walls, and this one doesn't. All right, get that lined up. And then push it into place. All right, just like that. Got everything locked in. Get the metal little connector covers, put them back on top. And get those screws in. Make sure you got all the connectors back in place. All right. Last metal plate here. And once you do all this disassembly, reassembly, or change any components, it's always a good idea to do a PRAM and SMC reset. All right, so you got all these screws in. Let's go ahead now and reconnect the battery. So the battery, just get it lined up and then push that back into place, just like that. All right, let's go ahead now and put the cover back on, do the PRAM and SMC reset, and then put the rest of the screws back in. We should be good to go. So let's go ahead now. Actually, we're gonna switch back to the Pentalobe 1.2 or P5 screwdriver, and we're gonna put all the bottom screws back in. All right, just like this. Sure everything is good. Alright, so other than the PRAM and SMC reset, that's pretty much it. Hopefully this video helped you guys. If it did, make sure to like, subscribe, and share my channel with others so that they can also learn how to upgrade and repair their devices. If it helped you save a bunch of money, please consider contributing a little to the channel. We're going to have to do the PRAM and SMC reset again. This is an important step. You don't want to skip it. It's a quick, simple, easy thing to do. So just do it. It doesn't cause any data to be lost or anything. So, alright. So let's go ahead and do that now. We got all the screws back in. Again, if you don't have a good way to dry your computer, you'll want to let it sit for a day before you try and turn this on. I used an electric air blower to make sure it's completely dry. So we're going to plug the Mac in now. Alright, let me actually clean this off a little bit more. Oh, it's turning itself on. Okay, make sure the screen is good since we've been having it all on my desk. Okay, so now let's open this up. We're going to do a Smc and Ram Reset. So right now the charge light is orange. To do the Smc reset, oh, the computer's turning itself on, so I'm going to have to make sure to shut it down first. Okay. You also want to test, make sure the battery's working. So right now it's on. If I unplug this, you can see it's staying on, so that's good. Oh, it's going into some cameras and stuff. Alright, so let me make sure to shut this down. This computer's too sensitive. It keeps wanting to turn itself on. So let's shut it down. Alright. And then let's do the Smc and Ram Reset. So it should be shutting down now. Okay, it closed Google Chrome. Almost done. Alright, so Smc Reset, what you're going to do is Control Option Shift on the left side, and then the power button. Let me actually zoom in and see if I can show you what will happen. I don't know if you can see it. Okay, so I don't know if you can tell, but right now the charge light is orange. What I'm going to do while holding the control option and shift on there, we're going to push the power button. The light will go to green and then back to orange. That's how you know you did the Smc reset right. Now we're going to do a Ram reset. So what you do is you power it on, Command Option P and R, hold those buttons down. Alright, you should see the computer screen come on or hear the chime, and then the screen should flash back off, but for some reason it didn't do it. So I have a feeling one of their keys here are not working. Maybe their option key, because before when it was booting I was trying to hold this option key and it wasn't doing anything. Normally it would let boot to the boot options, not boot to the Mac OS. So I'm going to try the command option on this side and then P and R. It should work with the ones on the right as well. So hopefully these keys are okay. But yeah, let's go ahead and turn this off again. Sorry for all this extra added time. This computer likes to keep booting itself and turning everything on by itself. So let's go ahead and shut this down. Okay, sorry, I'm waiting for it to shut down. Okay. Hopefully this one will work to show you what a Ram reset looks like. But otherwise, hopefully you'll be able to get it from my description. Basically, Command Option P and R. While the computer's starting up, you'll hear the chime, and then it should actually chime a second time if you did it right, and then you can let go. Alright, so we're going to try it again. Command Option P and R. Nope, it doesn't work. So I don't know, they did something to their keyboard. It's not wanting to work, or maybe it's because they made it do the auto boot. Anyways, let's go ahead and clean this, and that's pretty much all there is to it. So again, hopefully this video helped you guys. If it did, make sure to like, subscribe, share my channel with others. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Alright, let's drop this spike.